Hello and welcome to the Stool Pigeons. I'm Harrison Davenport.
And I'm Jack Jameswood.
Jack, I believe you have a story for us today.
Yeah, it looks like we have the conclusion to the story, watching my brother's wife cheat on my security cameras. I think this will be my last post for a while. Even writing this isn't therapeutic for me, or at least not like it was. I messed it all up. I've destroyed everything. Here's what happened. Over the last weeks, Jacob and Emily have been having sex. Some of it I've seen. The rest takes place outside my little universe. The world I've created and built as an obsession just for me. I knew I would have to tell my brother at some point, but I've held back. As I previously mentioned, it was clear to me immediately that Emily was into Jacob and no longer felt attracted or emotionally connected to my brother. After they kissed, he came to the house one more time before Kyle got back from New York. I both wanted this to happen and didn't want it to happen. I found it thrilling, but also deeply depressing and sad because I knew my brother loved Emily so much. It was right before my brother got home from his trip. I think it was Sunday. All I remember is Emily alone in the house. She hadn't talked to Jacob that day. He hadn't texted her. They hadn't been talking since they kissed. Normally they texted back and forth all day or spoke on the phone or communicated in some way. I remember that day pretty well because Emily got up early, even though she went to bed late. There was a certain anxiety you could sense watching her movements and a general unease that she showed just by moving about the house, clearly not enjoying anything that she was doing. Shifting from task to task, cleaning, scrolling on her phone, leaving her phone, and then coming back to it moments later to see if he had texted or called. It was like this all day. It was a nice day, sunny, 75, with a breeze, but she didn't go outside. She stayed in the whole day. The sun went down. She turned on the television but wasn't really watching it. She was mindlessly opening and closing apps and browsers on her phone, not finding pleasure from anything. She seemed to be working out things in her head. You could sense the deep uncertainty from the anxiety she displayed, which was unusual because normally she was upbeat and happy and generally had a warmth and magnetism to her. It was probably close to 10 o'clock. A car pulled in the driveway. It sat in the driveway for a while, and then finally Jacob got out. I could see her looking out the window and then rushing into her bedroom to throw something other than the baggy t-shirt and old pajama pants she was wearing. He rang the doorbell. He knocked on the door. And as he was about to turn away and get into his car, she opened the door and let him inside. It seemed awkward at first because their normal chemistry was a bit off. They were both trying to express how they felt about the kiss and what they wanted to do about it. They sat on the couch and they talked about it. Over the course of an hour, they were both able to exchange how they felt about one another and whether Emily felt the same way that he did about her. There were complications for her since she was married, and while he wasn't asking her directly, implicitly, he was asking her to end it. I guess it was around about 11 that they started drinking wine, just a couple of glasses, and then at some point they began kissing. They shared a passionate kiss for a long time. He kissed her neck gently and confidently and moved his hands all over her body with a certain degree of expertise. She seemed to almost melt away, completely seduced by the movement of his hands and how they glided over her body and seemed to express, through touch, what they had been trying to communicate to each other in words. She got on top of him and took off her top, and they kissed. He kissed her nipples, kissed her neck, kissed her. Then he picked her up effortlessly, lifting her entirely in the air, a couple feet, placed her on her back, and laid her out on the couch. He removed the silk pajama shorts she had on, kissed her thighs, kissed her most intimate parts over her underwear. He teased her with his mouth and tongue, bringing her close to climax several times before pulling back, leaving her moaning, intoxicated by his touch, in a state of pure desire. She rose from the couch and took his shirt off. She kissed his chest and marveled at his body. She felt his arms and muscles and fully gave herself to him. He stood up and she loosened and removed his belt first, and then unzipped his pants and slowly guided them down the floor. They were both naked in front of each other for the first time. Maybe the most erotic thing came when I heard through the audio Emily saying, awestruck by his body, "You can do absolutely anything you want. I want you so bad. You can put it anywhere. I've never been this turned on before. Feel how wet I am." If what I was watching were two people that had no connection to me or whose actions had no bearing on my life, I would say it's the most erotic thing that I've ever seen watching them. It really was. Before they were done, I'd already finished. But they continued, and I continued to watch. And to watch your brother's wife with another man, you realize how pathetic you are. And I realized how deeply depressed I was. I don't want to be Jacob, but I wanted Emily to desire me like Jacob. I'm nothing to her. I'm just a creep alone in an apartment, addicted to videos of people who I feel close to, but who don't feel close to me. There's no reason to describe in detail what their bodies look like in a second-by-second account, or how into it they both were. Mostly because if I had to describe it in words to strangers, it would make me feel even more alienated and alone than I am. When Lucas got back, he and Emily continued their old routine. I only saw her with Jacob one more time before he quit coming over to the house. I guess Emily went over to his house every day to do work because she wasn't there anymore. That was painful because I had nothing to do. I had no meaning. I felt lost and listless. Nothing gave me satisfaction. I tried to distract myself and find things to do, but all I could think about was the videos, her, and my desire for her. All the days blurred together. Then one morning, after I hadn't slept the night before, I wrestled with my thoughts and decided today would be the day I tell Lucas. At this point, Emily started coming home later than Lucas, so I figured I would just wait until he got home and tell him. The first time I tried this, I couldn't bring myself to do it because he was in a bad place, and when we talked, he told me about how stressed he was at work and just generally how his life wasn't going as he wanted it to, and how he didn't know when it was going to end, and how he couldn't see when it would end. This didn't seem like the right time, late at night, to drop a bomb on him. I couldn't do it. A few nights later, when I actually had a full night's rest, I decided to do it again. This was either the perfect night to do it or the worst night. Jacob picked up Emily in the morning, so whenever she came back home, he would be the one dropping her off. My brother got home earlier than usual, which was still in the late afternoon. A revelation like this is not something you mention in the first minute or even the first 30 minutes of a conversation. It's something that you ease into. So we had dinner, we chatted, and then I told him I wanted to show him something. I took him to one of the monitors where he could watch the video, where it had been recorded on the security footage. I tried to pretend I didn't know the exact date and time, so I had to fumble around before finding the correct spot to show him. I showed him the minutes before their first kiss. I could tell he could intuit exactly what was happening. I could see it from the reaction in his face. Then I started to show him the footage from that weekend when he was away in New York City. As the video was in the early stages of things, the motion activation screen prompted the live feed. It showed a car pulling up in the driveway. Lucas never saw the act himself, or what happened between them, because he hurried upstairs and ran out the door before he could, and he started to scream at her and him. Again, I found myself to be a specter, a voyeur, in someone else's relationship, in someone else's world, a nobody, a standby in the lives of other people. By myself in the basement, looking at the live feed, I watched the conclusion to events that I'd created. I watched them fight in the driveway, and at some point Jacob drove away. Emily and Lucas came inside. Later that evening, I saw her pack a bag and leave, and she hasn't come back yet. I'm not sure whether she will be able to resolve her feelings for Jacob. Right now, it seems unlikely. Lucas has been telling me that he thinks it's best if he moves out. I started off with these posts thinking maybe I was going to help him out in some way. But in reality, I destroyed him. I've tried to talk with him, ask how he's feeling, but he's cold and distant. Nothing good came out of any of this. Maybe if Lucas leaves, I'll move back in and restart things. Try to overcome something I dislike about myself that's still a secret to everyone around me. Being isolated and alone and having emotional attachments and feelings for people that don't even know what's happening has left me feeling empty and exhausted. I have to change myself. There's no other option. So, Harrison, that is the end to part 3. And what'd you think?
Yeah, and actually, that didn't work out for anyone. There was really no one getting any benefit here.
Yeah, it's a pretty sad story. Now, if you had to guess, what do you think Kyle's going to be up to?
I'm sure Kyle is just going to be chomping to get someone into that house, someone new. I'm sure he's going to be doing a screening process for the next people that move in.
There's a certain degree. I mean, he's felt conflict this entire time, and he has these little lines where he's like, well, I'm probably going to do it, but I would like to do better. And then the next post is like, well, anyway, I've continued to do it and things have escalated even more than the last post that I have. And, there's a lot of those, self-help guides and, guides for people to, create healthy lifestyles and choices for themselves. And what I was thinking is Kyle really needs to get just a healthier set of vices. Like, I don't know, maybe high-end escorts.
Yeah, maybe. It seems like he has plenty of money to do that. A lot of these cheating stories, they don't usually end well, and I guess this is another one of those. Okay, everyone, we appreciate you checking out the video, and please remember to subscribe. Our premium videos are available on Patreon, and please check out our weekly podcast, which is available on all major platforms. Thank you for listening.